BMW and Mercedes have spent more than a century fighting for the same customer. But here's what makes this rivalry fascinating. They're not really selling cars. They're selling status, identity, performance, technology, and the feeling that you bought something better than everyone else. And despite selling millions of vehicles every year, both companies have built businesses where the logo on the hood can be worth thousands of dollars. So how did two German automakers turn engineering into one of the most powerful luxury businesses in the world? And which strategy is actually winning? For more than a century, BMW and Mercedes-Benz have represented two different interpretations of German luxury. Mercedes-Benz built its reputation around invention, prestige, comfort, safety, and status. BMW built its identity around something very different. The driver. The famous BMW philosophy became associated with performance, handling, and driving dynamics. Mercedes wanted you to feel like you had arrived. BMW wanted you to feel like you were in control. And that difference became more than marketing. It became a business strategy. Because when customers don't simply buy transportation, but buy an identity, price becomes much less important. And that's where luxury economics begin. Think about the economics of a normal car. A customer compares horsepower, fuel economy, features, price. Then they choose the best deal. Luxury brands try to break that logic. Because if BMW and Mercedes were competing purely on specifications, their products would become commodities. And commodities have a problem. Price competition destroys margins. So instead, BMW and Mercedes sell something much harder to compare. Brand perception. A BMW isn't just transportation. It's supposed to represent performance. A Mercedes isn't just transportation. It's supposed to represent prestige, technology, and sophistication. That changes the customer's question. Instead of asking, "Which car gives me the most for my money?" the customer starts asking, "Which one represents me?" That is enormously valuable. Because identity is much harder for competitors to copy than horsepower. BMW's greatest business asset may not be a particular model. It may be the idea of BMW. For decades, BMW connected its brand with driving. That created an extremely powerful positioning strategy. If you want performance, you think BMW. And BMW reinforced that idea across its portfolio. 3 Series, 5 Series, 7 Series, X models, and then M. BMW M became more than a performance division. It became a brand amplifier. Think about what that means from a business perspective. BMW doesn't have to convince every customer to buy the most expensive model. Instead, it creates a ladder. You enter the brand with one product. Then you upgrade. Maybe from a 3 Series to a 5 Series. Then an M model. The company isn't just selling a car. It's building customer lifetime value. And that is a finance strategy disguised as automotive design. Mercedes plays a slightly different game. Its strategy is built around desirability. Look at the hierarchy. CLA, C-Class, E-Class, S-Class, then AMG, Maybach, and at the top, G-Class. This creates something incredibly powerful. A luxury ladder. A customer can enter the Mercedes ecosystem at one level and aspire to the next. And that's exactly what luxury businesses want. Because they don't necessarily need millions of customers. They need the right customers. Buying the right products. At the right margins. And this is where the rivalry becomes fascinating for investors. Imagine two companies selling nearly identical transportation. Company A has to compete on price. Company B has customers willing to pay more because of the brand. Company B has pricing power. And pricing power is one of the most valuable assets in business. BMW and Mercedes spend billions developing engines, batteries, software, factories, and technology. But the customer doesn't see all of that. The customer sees a badge, a grille, a design, an interior, and a reputation. That brand reputation can transform an engineering product into a premium financial product. This is why luxury companies obsess over perception. Because if the customer believes the product is special, the company doesn't have to win purely on price. But the luxury car industry is changing. Electric vehicles, software, artificial intelligence, China, tariffs, new competitors, and rapidly changing consumer expectations. The old formula was simple. Engine plus design plus badge equals luxury. The new formula is much more complicated. Software plus battery plus technology plus ecosystem plus brand equals luxury. And this is where BMW and Mercedes are entering their next great battle. BMW is betting heavily on flexibility. The company is developing a new generation of electric and software technologies while continuing to serve customers across different powertrain technologies. BMW's strategy is essentially saying, don't bet everything on one technology. Build the technology customers will want, without destroying the brand that customers already love. Mercedes is taking a different approach. It is pushing deeper into software, digital technology, electric vehicles, and its own technology ecosystem. The objective is no longer simply to build a better engine. It's to build a better experience around the entire vehicle. Because the luxury car of the future may not be judged only by acceleration or horsepower. It could be judged by software, connectivity, artificial intelligence, autonomous driving, interior technology, and how seamlessly the vehicle interacts with the owner's digital life. But there is another battlefield that investors cannot ignore. China. For years, China was one of the most important growth markets for global luxury automakers. BMW and Mercedes built massive businesses around Chinese consumers. But the market has changed. Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers have become increasingly sophisticated. They are competing aggressively on price, battery technology, software, and speed of innovation. That creates a serious challenge for traditional German luxury brands. Because the old advantage was simple. German engineering. But what happens when competitors become extremely good at engineering too? What happens when software becomes as important as the engine? What happens when a younger customer doesn't automatically associate luxury with a German badge? That is the strategic battle BMW and Mercedes are facing right now. And it may be more important than the rivalry between the two companies themselves. Because BMW isn't just competing against Mercedes. Mercedes isn't just competing against BMW. Both are competing against an entirely new generation of automotive companies. And that brings us to the heart of the rivalry. BMW's philosophy is closer to performance, identity, driving. Mercedes is leaning toward desirability, luxury, technology. BMW wants customers to feel, I drive. Mercedes wants customers to feel, I have arrived. Neither strategy is necessarily better. Because they target different emotional triggers. And that's the genius. The companies don't need every customer. They need loyal customers who strongly identify with one brand. Once that happens, the competition changes. The next car isn't just another purchase. It's an upgrade within the same ecosystem. And that is how brand loyalty becomes recurring revenue. So which company is actually winning? The answer depends on what you measure. BMW Group delivered approximately 2.46 million vehicles in 2025 and generated about €133 billion in revenue. Mercedes-Benz sold more than 2 million cars and vans and generated more than €132 billion in group revenue. But volume alone doesn't determine the winner. Because the real question is, who can turn a customer into a higher value customer? Who can charge more? Who can protect margins? Who can maintain brand desirability? Who can transition to electric vehicles without destroying profitability? And most importantly, who can convince the next generation that its badge still means something? BMW and Mercedes began with different philosophies. One built its identity around the driver. The other built its identity around luxury, engineering, and prestige. But over the decades, they discovered the same fundamental business lesson. The most profitable product isn't always the one with the best technology. It's the one customers are emotionally unwilling to replace. That's why this rivalry has survived for generations. Because BMW isn't just competing against Mercedes. And Mercedes isn't just competing against BMW. They're competing for something much more valuable. A permanent place in the customer's identity. And when a company can achieve that, the logo stops being a logo. It becomes an asset. That is the real business strategy behind the BMW versus Mercedes rivalry.